It's Thursday, November 12th. I'm Katherine Ross, and I am joined live by Jim Cramer. Jim, the Dow is down, the S&P is down, but the Nasdaq is pushing up. So, what is
Yeah.
Action Alert Plus watching this market?
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of cash and we're the most overbought that we've been in months. The fact that the Nasdaq has not been able to be crushed here is very good for us because we have large positions like in Nvidia and Broadcom, Microsoft. Those are the ones that are working. Amazon. But what I would express is that the Dow is reacting to caseload. The Nasdaq is reacting to uh, what has to happen if you have such a caseload. So obviously there's a lot of industries that are hurt and those are being sold. And there are a few industries that benefit and those are being bought.
What's your advice to investors who are hopping back into the stay-at-home stocks after selling them during the sell-off last week?
Well, look, I told them not to sell it. I mean, the stay-at-home stocks it's really kind of misnomers. Those are the growth stocks if there is a pandemic, and the growth stocks have to do with digitization and then the moving to homes. It has to do with the urban flight and it has to do with the cloud. And people just keep thinking value growth. And what they should be thinking about are secular trends that are not going to be stopped by a couple good days that are accelerated by a couple of bad days. So if you were thinking about being able to go back to work, okay, at the central office, I mean, that just can't happen. So anybody, and there were a lot of companies that were trying. A lot of companies were trying to get people back. That's over. And so now that whole well, look, we're safe. We can't get to the vaccine in time. We just can't. Too many people get sick. So as much as we would love to, and I expect J&J to say good things and be able to get their vaccine, I bet you AstraZeneca says good things to get their vaccine. I still don't see getting a needle in your arm until May. There are people who are in protected classes might be able to get it February. But when you speak to the companies that are the medical community, they don't think it's going to be distributed that quickly.
And I've been on the phone with doctors who agree with you, Jim, that especially right now during this transition period where we need to go from one administration to the next, it does put a little bit of pressure on when we can roll out a vaccine timeline until we can kind of know what the tiers are for who's going to receive what vaccine at what point, and then we can roll it out to the larger
Yeah,
US.
look, Operation Warp Speed, if we were not in this weird leadership vacuum, what we would know is that, okay, these people will be vaccinated on these 10 days. And then these people will be vaccinated on these 10 days. Or it would be A, B, C, D, E. It would be something that smacks of a plan. And right now, it's every person for him or herself. And that's unacceptable. And nobody's doing anything about it. And it makes you feel that even though that there may be vaccines that are available by year end, you're not going to get one. And we desperately do need them because too many people are getting sick, too many people are dying. Now, as a percentage, I mean, people say, "Well, Jim, only 4% are dying over the age of 70." Well, that's a lot of people. I mean, when you're having caseloads 140, 150, I mean, we're going to have caseloads of 200,000. And those people, not everybody's just going to be able to bounce right back like they're from the NFL.
And Jim, when you say it's everyone for the him or herself or their self, it's not just that. It's also states for themselves. So we've got New York, for example, imposing curfews among other states expected to, as cases top 100,000 a day for now 8 days straight. So I know that it's unlikely to get stimulus passed during this lame duck time period, but can we really afford to wait?
Well, look, there's two camps on this. There's the camp which just says it's flu and you're making too much of it. And then there's the camp that just says if you have a bad case of it, you need to go to the hospital and they can take care of you. But if there are not enough beds, then they can't take care of you. So there's a good chance that you may die. Um, it, the people who are in the first camp are rugged individualists who don't want to listen to the media. And if they didn't know any better, they think it's a hoax. Uh, as long as we have people who feel like that, uh, we're not going to get the kind of leadership in Washington that we need. I mean, there has to be an effort that starts right at the top that is not unlike when I had to get the polio vaccine. There was no polio is a terrible disease. In fact, if you got polio, it's really horrible. But you had to line up. You had to go to your school, and everybody had to go, and you had to wait and wait and wait. Lines really long, but you had to do it. You had to take the sugar cube. You had to get the shot. And I noticed that Nancy Pelosi's on the tape saying there's going to be a lot of vaccines. And the vaccines are going to work, but we need some sort of order. We don't have anything. It's chaos. It's chaos, and that's just very typical of what I've come to expect. And I see the president is retweeting that you got to switch away from Fox News. I wish the president, in his final acts, would just say, "Okay, everybody who is the age of X has to get the shot, blah blah blah, and we're going to commandeer all the shots. We're not going to just let it be in the private sector, and we are going to let everybody, rich or poor, get one, and we're going to lead the effort." And they're not doing that, and that's why everything's so chaotic, and that's why I don't think you're going to get the vaccine until April, May.
So, Jim, I want to emphasize that a little bit more. So, yesterday I talked to Dr. Dan, a biodefense expert, who did warn that the vaccine timeline, as I said, is tied to the transition going smoothly. In fact, he gave me two options for when we could see a mass vaccine rollout. He thinks that if we have a peaceful transition where we get this administration, the Trump administration, going smoothly to the Biden administration, then we can get a March-April rollout. But he thinks that if there's a lot more hiccups, then it could be a June/fall 2021 rollout. But with Moderna possibly having enough data to show it's close to Pfizer's efficacy, what would it mean for investors to have multiple vaccine candidates?
Well, I think we'd stop liking the stocks as much as we do. There's so many diluted, but Moderna. I mean, these are one of those things where it's like when you used to take a look at a drug company that would have a new drug, and the buildup would be great, and then when it finally got approval, people would sell. And it was a sell event, and I think it could be like that again for Moderna. I mean, look, it's pretty obvious to me that Moderna works real well. I think it's obvious that J&J works real well. Uh, Moderna today is starting to come back. It's up 3. People just, there's a lot of younger people who just like to speculate on these, and they do that. And I don't blame them. I mean, like, Moderna's exciting. It's a little company, and they might have solved it. But that dichotomy that you talked about with that doctor is what I'm most worried about, which is that uh, there's no, you have a president who thinks that he won the election. Why would he sit down with the loser? Why would he? I mean, it would be acknowledgement that the loser might be president. So there really is no ability. Trump has put himself in a position where there can be no transition and no talking. So you need literally a second government, a shadow government that's working. Maybe that's Ron Klain, who was just made the chief of staff. And remember, he handled the Ebola, the Ebola czar. Of course, Ebola got solved before that, but it would be unbelievable if we had a real government, because a real government, meaning a government that understood that this is really important to people. Because then what would happen is we wouldn't be as worried about a lockdown or partial lockdown. We could stay home and know that there's going to be a coming day where we don't have to stay home anymore. I mean, that was Dr. Gottlieb. Dr. Gottlieb, some people, my friend Jeff Sonnenfeld was saying Dr. Gottlieb was only right about 70% of the time. I listened to Dr. Gottlieb, and he's basically saying, listen, don't go out of your ecosystem. You're going to get a chance. Thanksgiving next year will be great. And this idea that you have to be gratified immediately is another part of the problem. I mean, stop it. Just don't do anything. Or if you do something, make sure it is done in a fashion where everyone is tested and you know that no one has it.
Now, Jim, switching focus, as the coronavirus pandemic continues, one thing that's going to continue for that is cord cutting. And Roku is one of the biggest cord cutting stocks, but I also wonder if it's going to be the ultimate winner from this. I was looking at TVs the other day, and one of the many ones that I looked at kept boasting Roku offerings. So with Roku already in the TV, you don't need to worry about something like the Fire Stick. So do you think that this is a big winner in the long run?
Oh yeah, we've been we have really have spent a giant amount of time analyzing Roku, and we think it's fabulous. We think it's synonymous with cord cut, and it also has great advertising. We did a piece last week. Roku and Trade Desk are the two biggest winners. They both can be bought. They are terrific. That's TTDD. I'm sorry, TTD. That is just another stock. These are the two winners. And if you want to play cord cut, which I think is something you definitely want to play, then you got to buy one of them. Now the Action Alerts has not done that. Oh my God, Trade Desk is all the way up to 754. Action Alerts has not done it, and that's my problem. I have to be more willing to take on more risk to own one of those, and I feel like so often that we've missed it, but we haven't. Those moves are going to be augmented because business is so good.
All right, Jim. So yesterday you had your live members only exclusive monthly call. I want to take a step back and I want you to give our viewers a sneak peek on your thoughts on Salesforce that you've been drilling into the members of Action Alerts Plus.
Well, look, I mean, Salesforce got downgraded by Keith Weiss today at Morgan Stanley. Now, I should mention that he likes ServiceNow, so it's not like he's just against the high multiple group. But Salesforce is barely down, and that's a good sign. The piece did not have anything about how Salesforce is bad or going to screw up. I mean, I have Alteryx tonight, and they did screw up. It was just a piece about how we shouldn't be paying so much for their earnings. Now, I would come back and say, here's what you need to know. The thing that you absolutely have to have is a look on how the company's doing. And I think Salesforce is having an exceptional quarter. So you may look like you're paying too much for the company as it is now, but if you look at where it will be, I think you'll find that it's a mistake to sell. Business is that good, and that's what you have to think about with the Salesforce. These stocks trade on how their business is. They don't trade on the idea that their valuation is too high. It just hasn't worked like that. I like Keith.
So moving on to a big tech stock, you called the Barclays note on Microsoft this morning thoughtful.
Yes,
what made this note stand out to you?
That's a great note. Okay, so there's a page in that report which has it's a pie chart, and it has all the different Zscalers and Palo Altos, and shows you how many companies are doing cloud-based cybersecurity. There's a ton, and what he's basically saying in that piece is Microsoft's offering is better than everybody's. You don't need to have any of these other guys come in, and therefore it's worth $30 billion to the company. And I just loved the piece. I thought the piece was just outstanding. And I know it's maybe not possible for everyone to get the research, but that was a great piece. And I think it should be moving Microsoft because it was so trenchant. Let's see. Microsoft is up almost $2, and that's right. 6 million shares. That's good.
Well, Jim, you know that speaking of Microsoft, I have to bring up, as excited as I am, that it is a huge week for both Xbox and PlayStation as gamers finally get a chance to get their new hands on the consoles. But unfortunately, I haven't gotten my paws on one yet. But what are your thoughts on video game stocks? Action Alerts Plus has Take-Two, but there's EA and Activision.
Take-Two, I don't understand. There's a piece today, I think it was Piper, that said, look, they just made this great acquisition, but actually they paid too much. Without a doubt, the thing is additive next year, but maybe it was too expensive this year. I mean, what are you talking about? I mean, the fact is, and you knocked the stock down. The fact is that people should buy Take-Two. Take-Two's going to have a great year. You have you have gaming cycle. You've got new product. I think that this acquisition is good. They have a lot of cash. Why not do something with it rather than have it just sit there, earn nothing? It's just a buy, and I think that people are just mistakenly selling it. I also like NVIDIA with this. The chips for gaming.
And Jim, we've got Disney Plus. So last year we discussed Disney Plus. You told me, rightly so, that this isn't a streaming giant for you personally. But seeing how Disney is now so hyper-focused on streaming, what would it take for you to subscribe to Disney Plus?
Well, no, I have Disney Plus now. What bothers me about Disney is that I had a chance to sell it like 10 points higher and didn't take advantage of it because I wanted to wait for the meeting. And now I'm more short. Look, there was just this momentary opportunity to sell some stocks much higher than they are, and we took it, and I'm glad we did. But then Disney comes right back down, but we don't want to buy it again because it ruined our basis, and we just don't think that there's an edge other than say that Disney Plus is good, and that's because of the darn virus. They can't say a thing unless they do what I've been urging them to do, which is talk about a ready test that you get at the hotel and wand that you don't have the virus, you can go in. If they announce that, the stock is going to be just soaring.
So I was reading your Real Money column this morning, Jim, and you made some stock
Was it?
picks
Did
based
you
off of
like the
Singles
column?
Day.
I thought
I did
the
like
column
the
was
column. I
right.
have
I
to
mean,
say,
the
I
column
was
was
a
about
little
singles.
surprised.
What about what in Singles Day?
Estee Lauder? You called out Estee
Yeah,
Lauder and Nike. I understand Nike. I mean, 18% of
Estee
sales,
Lauder's huge.
I believe,
Estee
are in
Lauder's the big
China.
winner. And I even had the products of what sold the most. Joe Malone, La Mer. Estee Lauder was the biggest winner by far. And this may have been their greatest Singles Day ever, enough to raise the numbers. And I think that the analysts are way behind. They should have come out this morning and say, buy Estee Lauder. But they didn't. They haven't done the homework. I have.
So if you haven't already, head on over to realmoney.com to read that column. As Jim said so himself, you're not going to want to miss it because he did his homework. So we are now heading over to our actionalertsplus.com show of the day. You're not going to want to miss it. I'm Catherine Ross. I've been joined by Jim Cramer, and we'll see you tomorrow.